Hello, this is Giovanni, your instructor for English 121 The Campus Journalism. So the content of our course, we discussed that on my screen. Welcome to this course. Our first topic, first we have the foundation and concepts of journalism. So we better first understand the foundation and its concept so that we will be ready for the following topics of what is really campus journalism. So let's go. The objectives of this course. We have to identify the tenets of journalism, to name the functions and duties of the press, compare and contrast journalism and literature, explain freedom of the press, and critique the strengths and weaknesses of selected articles. Learning outputs. So you're gonna have, after this presentation, a reflection paper on importance of journalism. Second, you're gonna write an essay that discusses the responsibility of news reporter and impartiality. So journalism is everywhere. Okay? Tools of communication, we will use TV, radio, printed, or electronic. Areas of work, the field of journalism, reporting, writing, editing, photographing, and broadcasting. So journalism comes from the Latin word diurnal, meaning daily. So the engagement, the activities of journalism is daily, so meaning that is journal. Journalism may appear in newspaper, magazines, televisions, and internet. So what is newspaper? Okay. Newspaper is the oldest and traditional format for the inclusion of journalism. They are regularly scheduled publications containing news of current events, informative articles, diverse features, and advertising. In the 19th century, American journalists relied on sensational stories that were used to excite or anger the public rather than to be informed. This form of journalism became known as yellow journalism. Accurate and fact-based reporting became popular again around the time of World War II. So during World War II, it became again the accurate-based reporting when the restrained style of writing gained resurgence. So what are magazines? Magazines are more relaxed format than newspapers. These are published in regular schedule, could be weekly, monthly, or quarterly. The Gentleman's Magazine, this is the magazine first published in London in 1731. It was edited by Edward Cave under the pseudonym Sylvanus Orban. So this term, magazine, came out in this year. The first usage of the term magazine. Television, news, journalism, radio. This is known as news broadcasting and is produced locally in a newsroom or by a broadcast network. It sometimes also includes such additional material as sports coverage, weather forecast, traffic reports, and commentary, and other material that the broadcaster considers relevant to the intended audience. Most major television channels offer regular news broadcasts throughout the day. So that's television news journalism and radio. We have also internet connection. This is a digitalized form of communication and disseminating information on the net. So, as you observe, nowadays, bloggers or blogger reporting becomes popular in this modern era. However, opinions are much easier because of open sources. But it is advantageous on the part of the writers because they have a lot of resources in writing news. So, let's try to compare now the journalism versus literature. Though the both terms have the same forms of writing, but then again, they are different. Literature is based on wandering imagination of a writer. Literature is categorized into two, the prose and poetry, while journalism grounded on facts, with its genre, the news, editorial, and features. Journalism, therefore, follows strict method of dividing ideas through paragraphs. Later on, we will learn how to dissect a news, how to divide a news in terms of paragraphing. And literature, on the other hand, has a variety of forms and styles. It is dependent again to what the author would like to write. That is literature, meaning the writings are all product of imagination, while journalism follows conventional writing procedures. So, there are also tenets of journalism. First is we have responsibility. Journalists should always be aware of their obligations to their readers to write the truth whatever it costs. For this reason, journalists must be brave enough to defend facts and the truth behind the news. Meaning, it's all about responsibility in writing. Whatever you write in your composition must all be founded with facts and truths. So that is responsibility. Second is freedom of the press. As a basic right, freedom of the press should be safeguarded by the people of media. In this case, any topic under the sweltering heat of the sun must be written so long as there is no infraction to the existing laws of the land. So it is a good thing to know that writers have freedom to write. But the question is that freedom, or is freedom to write or expression absolute? That is something to ponder on. Number 3, independence. Putting forward the life of one or two persons by slashing the welfare of the general public is a clear violation of this tenet. It therefore means that the services of a journalist should be committed to the interest of the general public and not driven by the interest of money, called envelopmental journalism. So meaning, you are independent of writing the whole truth, safeguarding the truth, regardless of what the environmental So for example, a politician, so for example, may drop you or may give you a money for a certain issue. How are you going to deal with that when we have this independence? Because our welfare, when we write in journalism, is the welfare of the general public. So it is the right of the public to know the truth, so write the truth. That is independence. Number 4, objectivity, truthfulness, and accuracy. Checking the veracity of data and information before they are published is an example of being accurate and truthful. So that is a clear meaning of objectivity, the veracity of the data before it is published. Since facts are the solid foundation of journalism, media men should not therefore conceal the truth by fabricating facts and by publishing misquoted statements and erroneous statistics. Objectivity, on the other hand, is simply avoiding conflicts of interest on the treatment of the articles and on the way arguments and news are written. So therefore, it is loud and clear that objectivity is to avoid the conflict of interest. We check the veracity, the truthfulness of the data before it is published. Partisan news and biased interviews violate the ideals of journalism. Okay? So, partisan meaning it's a kind of a political way of influencing your writing output, your journalistic endeavor. So, it's not the way like that objectivity means. We must be founded with facts and avoid conflict of interest. Fifth, we have fairness. The whole point in advocating objectivity is to be fair in presenting information in any journalistic field. This means that if you have an issue to write on or to speak on, you must get the two sides or both sides of the coin. Meaning, you interview both of the respondents taking part of the issue. So that is fair. That is fairness. However, there are also killers of balanced reporting. Number 1 is this yellow journalism. I have already shared this yellow journalism, meaning it means sensationalizing a story or an issue. It is a type of journalism that presents little or no legitimate, well-researched news and instead uses eye-catching headlines to sell more newspapers. Para bang sumusulat ka ng isang istorya na mayroong nasusunog na isang bahay kubo at ipinalabas mo na isang mansyon ang nasusunog. That is not balanced reporting. It's a kind of sensationalism. That's yellow journalism. Techniques may include exaggerations of news events, like I have shared an example, scandal mongering or sensationalism, that's what I've said. So, marami ito sa showbiz stories. Because their purpose is to catch and more sales. Okay? Second is new journalism. This new journalist expanded the definition of journalism and of legitimate journalistic reporting and writing techniques. Yung mga phrases na non-fiction novel and narrative techniques of fiction, this is considered as a killer of balanced reporting. In doing so, they ignited a debate over how much like a novel or short story a journalistic piece could be before it began violating journalism's commitment to truth and facts. This approach represents a return to the roots of social reporting, which was used in Charles Dickens' fiction. Para bang dinidescribe lang natin yung katha, yung work, lagyan lang natin ng non-fiction para naman mapakilala at mapaipalabas na katotohanan. Ayan. Number 3 is advocacy journalism. Advocacy. This is a genre of journalism that, unlike propaganda, is fact-based but supports a specific point of view of an issue. Ito yung advokasya ng mga sa journalismo na focus sa mga stories na deal sa mga corporate business practices, government policies, political corruption, and social issues. Advocacy journalists serve the public interest in a way similar to muckrakers or whistleblowers. Most advocacy journalists reject the supposed objectivity of the mainstream press as a practical impossibility, and some others take the position that the economic censorship exerted by corporate sponsors is no different from political censorship. Ibig sabihin, sinusuway nila kung ano ang naging pahayag sa isang mainstream press. Mainstream, meaning ito yung mga media na matataas yung mga rate. Sinusuway. Gumagawa sila ng kanilang advokasya. Okay? That is advocacy journalism. Number 4 is stylistic journalism. Ito yung imaginative, stylized writing of stories and considers newspapers as the literature of immediate fact. Para itong parang fiction na din siya. Para na din siyang literature. Imaginative kasi yung dating niya. Stylized writing of stories, the literature of immediate fact. When we inject styles to journalism, that becomes now not balanced journalism, because that includes now partly injecting our imagination. Okay? Imaginative. 5th is editorializing. This is giving the reporter's opinion rather than the fact. Para bang itong komentary lang. It may also mean the expanding of news about the insignificant happening to give publicity to a subject. Editorializing, without investigating the fact, you are giving your own opinion to the issue that is editorializing. That is again one of the killers of the balanced reporting. Okay? So this must be, again, concepts that kill balanced reporting must be avoided. Yan. So, meron din tayong functions and duties of the press. So, statement lang tayo that first, the quality of the newspaper must be reflected in the editorial policy. It is more than just a business, because it also reflects and influences the life of the whole academic community. Kung ano yung editorial policy, nakaka-impluensya yan sa academic community, the institution itself. Kasi yun ang pinapublish natin. Yun ang binabasa ng audience natin. Second is newspapers may educate, stimulate, assist, or entertain. So, it is therefore a moral responsibility to balance public interest and the gains. So, yun naman talaga. Mayroon naman, function naman talaga ito na nag-educate yung kasi binabasa, mayroong audience, may influensyahan siya sa the way the writers wrote the article. So, karamihan, hindi rin natin i-imbestiga kung ano yung sinulat ng writer. So, wala tayong magagawa. We believe to what has been written by the writer. Okay? So, stimulate, assist, and entertain. Yan. The fundamental quality of the newspaper rests on the quality of the content and the kind of editorial product. Again, the editorial, this is the soul of the newspaper. Ito yung stand ng isang newspaper, ng isang publication. Okay? Ito yung this is the collaborative ideas put into an editorial. Ito yung stand nila. So, rest on the quality of the content. Kung ano yung content ng editorial nila, yaon din ang nais ipaparating ng newspaper na yan. So, newspaper must have integrity and readers' confidence. Meaning, mabibuild na natin yung integrity if the writers themselves follow strict method or procedures in finding out facts, the basis, the veracity of the data written in the newspaper. Fifth, freedom of the press encompasses responsibility of newspaper. So this has been said that we have the freedom of the press and our responsibility of the newspaper towards the audience, because writers have responsibility to cater what's supposed to be learned, known by the audience. So the press must practice the principles of journalism without bias. Yan. Ganyan. However, there are limitations of the press. Meron ding limitations. Okay? According to Pulitzer Prize-winning author David Broder, okay, that reports are flawed, meaning nagkakamali ang mga reports. Reports are not that complete and may bear mistakes. Yan, limitation yan. The limitations of the press may be traced upon the time frame within which an article should be submitted for publication. Remember that journalism secures the freshness of the information. Therefore, when a journalist is in a hurry to beat the deadline, he may not have enough time to reach all the sources of information. Ito yung mangyayari kapag ang writer ay nagmamadali para mabit yung deadline ng isang kumpanya, isang publishing company. At dahil sa pagmamadali, hindi na nakuha yung tama proseso, tamang katotohanan, okay, the truth, okay, of the issue. So possibly ang mangyayari is magkakamali. Second is the proneness to be manipulated by the powerful, the elite, and the politicians. Ito yung sinasabi ni Broder, 1987, as cited by Pangilinan 2012, that he said, every good politician will attempt to work well with the press. If you live in a country where public opinion ultimately decides public policy, any politician who is at all serious in going to try to manage public opinion, and that means working with the press, so they all do it. Meaning, kapag ang isang bansa ay masyadong democracy or democratic country, example Philippines, ibig sabihin, mayroong isang policy, the policy is realized, the policy is promulgated, the law is promulgated based on the public, ayan, public opinion. Yung public opinion siya yung nagmumold ng policy. So, ang mangyayari, mayroong mga tao, malalaking mga tao, mga kapangyarihang mga tao na magmaninipula sa press. Ayan. Alam naman natin yan. Okay? So that is one of the limitations of the press. So, ang mangyayari, imbis na ang katotohanan na may palabas, hindi na. Ang katotohanan na may palabas galing sa isang politiko. Okay. I think that ends with this first lesson, and before that, I am going to give you this activity 1 and 2. First, using a Venn diagram, compare and contrast the nature of journalism and literature. Second is, say, argue in 300 words whether freedom of speech or writing is absolute. Cite concrete instances. Take note that your output out of this activity will be compiled in your portfolio. I will collect your portfolio at the end of the semester. So arrange that portfolio from activity 1, 2, 3, 4, so forth, so on and so forth. Okay? And I'd like to acknowledge the resource, my resource of this topic, Campus Journalism Within Your Reach, a work text for journalist wannabes in the campus by Ferdinand Bulusan Maed. So thank you and keep safe everyone. Mabuhay Mindanao.